Spooky Tuesday.
That morning I was not yet a vampire, and I saw my last sunrise. I remember it completely, and yet I can't recall any sunrise before it. I watched the whole magnificence of the dawn for the last time as if it were the first. And then I said farewell to sunlight and set out to become what I became.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff, and this is our first Pride episode. Yay!
Our first Pride episode.
Happy Pride, everybody. Happy Pride.
It's already super gay and sexually charged in here. Can you feel that?
Of course it is. It's always like that with us.
I know, but there's something, it's like extra today. It's almost too much. Maybe it's because we're dressed the way we are.
That's fair.
Yeah, we've all dressed to theme this week, which is always a delight. I always love when we do that. It's so fun when it's all three of us too. And we've got something extra sexy about our theme outfits. I don't know if it's because some of us have a little fake blood, or if it's because some of us look like we've been drinking blood recently, or if we have a cup of blood nearby to toast you with. But we just really wanted to commit to the bit because this week's episode, our first Pride episode of the year, is all about the 1994 movie Interview with the Vampire.
Ooh,
Yay!
baby.
Yay!
I'm
Okay, so
so
I know
glad
you
we're doing
guys.
this.
I know you guys had seen it before. I had not seen it before, but I did recently decide to get into the TV show. So this movie has given me some project spoilers now, unfortunately, for I think where season 2 is going. But it was so interesting to be able to like watch them and compare the two. I don't know if you guys are watching that show, but anybody
I
listening at
haven't
home,
watched it, but I do.
I'd
I did
recommend
read
it.
the book, so I was doing it for that.
There
This
you
does
go.
make me want to watch the show, though.
The show is
Me
great.
too.
The show's
Definitely
great.
want to watch the show.
And some of the best moments on the movie really get like expanded on in the show because they're making
Totally.
what is this movie into 2 seasons of television, basically. So you've got like so much time with some of it. So it's really interesting. It's really well done. But it is gorgeous to go back to the original because the TV show, it's also based on the book, obviously. And like there are some things that are true to the book that are in the show and not the movie, and vice versa. But it's very much pulling from the movie, inspired by the movie. The movie is that bitch. So it's great. But if you don't know what either is about, allow me to read you the IMDb log line. Let me just pull it up real quick, and then my computer's gonna freeze because of the video trailer. Oh, well, it's brief, it's quick. They keep it short and punchy. It reads: a vampire tells his epic life story. Love, betrayal, loneliness, and hunger.
Wow.
I mean,
Sensual.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. That scans.
That
That seems just about right. Oh man, this movie, this book, you gotta be, for me, I had to be in the right mindset for it. Because last night I watched this and I wasn't jiving with our main character, unfortunately, last night. He was pissing me off. And I felt very similarly when I read the entire book in an audiobook form with Adam on a road trip. But I watched it again today and I was fucking with it heavy. So it just depends, because
Yeah.
usually when you watch a movie about vampires, most of the time, unless it's Twilight, they're kind of like into being vampires. And so it's a different take to have a main character with so much fucking self-loathing and he never gets into it ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a bummer. And it's so interesting that said that you felt the same about the books because I haven't read them, but something on IMDb trivia made it sound like Brad Pitt when he signed on for the role because he plays Louis de Pontulac in the movie. He vibed with the book character who was very much like asking questions of like, who am I? And like that kind of like existential questioning, and he was like down with that. But then once he was actually filming the movie, and he didn't get the actual script for the movie until like a few, like 2 weeks before they started shooting or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Once he got the actual script and he was shooting, it was so like broody to him in a way it hadn't come across in the book. And he was like, this is such a fucking bummer. I hate my life. I hate being in this movie.
It's such a bummer.
I am so like, yeah, he's like, I'm so depressed by this. I'm so over it. Like, hate it here. Can I get out of my contract? No, I guess I'm stuck. Just like my character, Louis de Pontelac, let me channel this into my art. But he was not
No,
feeling it.
Apparently he like tried to get out. He like hated the makeup, hated like
Tom
all this.
Cruise,
You didn't like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise was like, yeah,
oh
Brad Pitt smells.
he's
Like,
a
I don't
smelly
want
guy. Yeah.
to be around him. And
no.
he like
Damn.
messaged the producer and was like, what will it like, what can I do to get out of this? And he was like, pay us $40 million. And he was like, okay, I guess I'll be in the movie.
All right, I guess I'll
Damn.
do it. Whatever. Fine. Stop asking.
Fine.
Yeah.
If you really want me that
All
bad.
right, if you guys are like obsessed with me or whatever, okay.
Damn, there was so much contention with this movie and cast and different power players in it because
Yeah, because
I
Anne Rice
mostly
had
came from
feelings.
an Anne Rice perspective on this. And it was so interesting because I read this like whole, like, I don't know, article, blog post or whatever about every single thought she had about the movie. Because I was really confused because I watched the title sequence and it said screenplay written by Anne Rice. So I assumed, oh, she must have been really involved in the film. And then immediately, in my first thing I researched, I find out that's not the case. She did write the script, but then they cast Tom Cruise, and she was like, oh, fuck that shit. And everyone was like, no, actually, fuck you. And they completely locked her out for everything else for the rest of the movie. And so she only saw the VHS before it premiered. But luckily, she fucking loved it.
She really
But
came around. Yeah.
she really came around on Tom Cruise, but she was like loud and proud, like Tom Cruise is the wrong choice. He can't do it. And you know what? I understand. You know, Tom Cruise is a silly Billy guy. He hadn't done a lot of vampire like roles at that point in his career, but he put his whole pussy into Lestat. And he was fucking insane. And he did slay. And I'm so glad that Anne Rice and I agree.
Yeah, I thought he did like a really good job. But also, I think like Tom Cruise plays a really good, like, bad guy,
He will
He so
go
rarely gets
all
the
the way
opportunity.
there.
right?
Yeah.
Like, when he does a great job at it. And I saw something where in the movie, because it's being like through Louis' eyes, like the whole
Hmm.
book as well, and it's
Yeah.
broody, like he's coming off more as a villain, but like in reality, he, just wanted a friend and a
A friend.
lover, and
History
then
will
was
call them
like,
friends.
and history would call them roommates. Uh, like he just wanted a roommate, and then he was like, my roommate's gonna leave me. What if we had a baby? Which is like so common to do. Like,
Just like we were
This is
saying in
exactly
Rosemary's
like
Baby,
Rosemary's
this is the real
Baby.
baby trap.
yes,
Seriously, it will not fix things, okay? Also,
It
okay, my
might. It's worth a shot. Ugh, what do
you
you mean I
gotta
now have to deal with this
try.
bratty teenager forever?
okay, but that's like kind of the theme of the whole movie. It's like let's make really, really like permanent, longer than normal lifelong related commitments, like eternal commitments to try to fix problems where eternity isn't gonna help. Like, I'm so sorry, Louis, but being alive forever isn't gonna cure your depression. I don't
Right.
know why you thought that that would clear your clinical depression, but
I
certainly it will not.
I don't
Like,
think he thought that. I think he just in a moment when he actually was about to die was like, "Do I really want to die? I'm not sure." And then he was locked in, and after that he's really been like, maybe I will still die. I don't
Maybe it was more for Lestat.
We've all gotten out of a long-term relationship that makes you very sad just to end up in a very toxic relationship,
Look.
We have all
You
been there.
can't
He's
go
only
say yes.
24 and the man of the house.
His
And by
brain's
house,
not
I
even
mean
yes
fully
to the
plantation.
developed.
first.
He never hit 25.
You can't say yes to the first eternal soul who comes your way and offers you eternal life. Okay, you gotta
but-
wait. You gotta just wait it out. You can
Jesus
get
but
there.
come
here's the thing.
along.
That would absolutely work for me. Are you saying that you want to spend the rest of eternity with me? Yeah, me too. Let's go. You're stuck with me now. He did it wrong. He should have been like, Lestat, you're trapped with me.
He
Well, I
didn't
feel
know
like
his power.
my moral of the story, where like being a vampire doesn't clear clinical depression, is the same story that fucking Lestat needs to learn. He needs to learn that lesson because he was like manic pixie dream boy Louis. He's so handsome and he's so angry and he's got beautiful hair and he's mysterious. I'll make him happy again by giving him eternal life. No, that's not going to fix it either. That you can't just put a band-aid of vampirism over these things. He needs to do hard work in therapy, and that's the only way he'll come out on the other side.
Monica, it was the 1700s. Therapy wasn't invented.
Is that
I'm
true?
just making a little joke.
Therapy wasn't a thing.
He just needs to, spend a little bit more time in the whorehouse, I think, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, he would have been fine.
Yeah. Well, look, it's complicated, okay? His wife and baby died or whatever, which is not the background in the books and not the background in the show. So I don't know why they randomly gave him wife and baby, other than maybe they were trying to be like, he's straight. But also that doesn't mean anything either. He could A, be bisexual, and B, it could just be a sign of the times, okay? And it's like now this whole future he had planned for himself, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is he's a sad boy. He's a sad boy. And then a handsome man
so
comes
sad.
along and says, do you want things to be different? Do you want things to be changed? Do you really want to die? Puts them right on the edge, and then
He flies him in the sky.
Death, yeah, and then he puts him on his deathbed again by saying, drink some of your blood, dropped you in the river, gave you an infection from the river, maybe, I think is what IMDb trivia was saying was the implication, that he's like sick on his deathbed from being in the river with open wounds.
Well, I thought maybe it was because he lost a lot of blood.
Yeah.
But okay, it could also be that.
Either way, I guess works, he's
Totally.
dying one way or another.
100%.
And Lestat comes to him again, and he gives him that little speech that has, more than a couple of words in common with marriage vows. So that is 100% setting the vibes for what Lestat is inviting him into, is like, he mentions forever, he mentions sickness and death. Obviously, his framing is a little different, but I think the subtext for what he's proposing is there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like, what is more forever than vampirism together? You know what I mean? Like, that's the eternal vow. That kind of like takes it a step above marriage, even.
Like, not will you move in with me, not do you want to get married, but like, would you like to spend eternity together forever?
Do you want to be a creature of the night with me and only me? Okay,
For
but
all of eternity.
I read somewhere that Lestat's birthday is November 7th, so he is a Scorpio, and like
my boss's birthday.
that tracks. Because
I think Louis a Libra.
He would be.
His birthday's October, but I don't know where in.
No way. I'm
so
wearing isn't Libra the balance thing?
Yeah.
The scales, yeah.
I'm wearing a scales pin. Wow. I was thinking of, I wore that because one, I needed to put my little collar down, and two, I was like, he cares about what is just and right.
That's so right, Monica.
Oh my
Thank you
God.
so
Monica
much.
just knows.
I just get him so much. The other pin though is an Oktoberfest pretzel with a beer mug hanging from it. So
And
that one
Louis
doesn't
would
really
love
have.
that too.
Yeah. if either one of you turned into a vampire and didn't at least offer me the choice, I would be very mad.
Oh, well,
If you
yeah, I
said
know that.
no, how many times throughout your lifespan would you like us to check in and
Oh,
re-offer?
you have to keep asking. It's like, when you're
It's like every year, just like, hey girl, just like seeing how you're doing. Like, have you given that any
Hey,
more thought? Like, would you
are
like
you
to spend
thinking
eternity
about it?
together?
yeah.
Like, no pressure, totally your call, but like, just wanted to check in. Hey girl.
And then here's the thing, like right before I start like really aging, just like do it anyways.
Okay,
Like
perfect.
surprise me.
So I can have you, I can finally activate your fucking wrath, which I've been talking about on the podcast for 3 years now that I'm terrified of, just to spend eternity with you. That sounds like a great idea.
Get her really pissed off and make her a vampire in one bang. It's gonna go great.
Yeah, it's perfect. I'm literally giving you permission now. It's fine.
She's
Okay,
given
it's
consent
on the
and
record.
just
It's
don't
on
check
the record.
again next time is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Here's very dark, very dark. Don't follow these rules,
Okay.
listeners. Should I put on a top hat right now? I feel like I should. I was thinking
That's
about
your very
it.
dark thought. I want to be really clear. I'm assuming that that's the dark
Should
thought
I put
that
on
you
a
are gonna
top
share
hat?
with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
Oh,
follow
yeah.
Monica's.
Follow
I'm gonna
those
put-
dark impulses, girl. Put the hat on.
I'm gonna do it.
I only have my gold top hat, so
I'm just a petite beauty. I cannot wear a hat.
le belle fille.
I have two. Which one?
The
Big
top
or
hat, top
The
hat.
top hat.
The top hatty one. Okay, the other one's a smaller top hat.
Now you look like a magician.
I know I looked like a magician already, but now I'm really going full pussy into it. Okay, I'm just getting ready for the mime part that's gonna happen later on. But okay, let's talk about gay shit real quick. Because we're talking about the vow, the eternal vow. They're having their vow, and it's beautiful. But Anne Rice is so funny. May she rest in peace, by the way. I didn't realize that she had died, and I'm actually really upset about it. But she's fucking hilarious, and she was fully aware of how gay she made this book and subsequently the script.
How
And
could
she was
she
like
not
really,
be?
yeah. I don't know. It could have been like that guy from what was it,
We
Nightmare on
didn't
Elm
know.
Street 2,
Yeah,
who was
that
like, I
Freddy's
didn't
revenge
make
was
it
gay.
gay. What are you
Girl,
talking
yes,
about,
you
bitch?
did.
Yes,
Are you
you
sure?
did. You made it gay for sure. But she has this like amazing quote just in general. And then I'll get into more specifically about this book. But she said that I think I have a gay sensibility and I feel like I'm gay because I've always transcended gender and I've always seen love as transcending gender. In my books, I've always created bonds of love that have transcended gender. I'm like, okay, I feel like there's some questions that she was preparing to ask.
The word non-binary so bad.
She really
Right?
did. This was in 2016, so this was like so recent. Oh, girl. But yeah,
R.I.P.
I
Anne
get
Rice.
teased
You
a
would have
lot by my
loved
gay.
the internet.
She was alive for the internet. I don't know when she died, but I think it was rather recently.
Yeah, I think like right before season 1 of the TV show came out.
Yeah, but she's clearly not on the right side of the internet if she didn't know what non-binary was in 2016.
She's just going on her blog and being like, please don't write fan fiction. Lestat de Lioncourt lives solely inside of my head.
Well, she was an older like woman at that time,
and she's
you know
possessive.
what I mean?
She seems to really identify with Lestat de Lioncourt, and I can see how those vibes shine through on occasion. Don't touch her stuff, okay? Don't touch her stuff.
Fair.
That's her stuff.
Well, she also like wrote Lestat kind of off of her husband.
I know, which is so like, girl, what's going on in here?
Okay. There's
I could be like,
really
maybe she could be possessive. Like, this is my husband character. No touchies.
There's some really interesting inspiration for the book, and some of it's really sad and also troubling. Like her daughter, she had a daughter who passed away at 5 years old due to a rare cancer. And so that's like part of the inspiration for Claudia's character, creating this eternal child, which like
'Cause she's
totally
5
makes
in the
sense as a
book, too.
coping mechanism. Oh my God, I forgot she's 5 in the book. That makes what I'm about to say all the more disturbing. The vibes between Louis and Claudia are a little bit more Lolita-y than you would want, especially in comparison to the movie. I feel like that's like barely there. Like they call each other lover or something for a second in the
My
movie.
love.
Yeah. And that's about it. But like there's some weird tension. In the book, they have more space for things to get weird, as you might imagine, and it does
Sure.
get weird. Nothing like happens, but you know. So that was really interesting. But like I was saying before, she fully understood how queer she was making this story. And she said that she thought she would have to dial it down like a ton before it would ever be bought and selected for a film. But the book came out in 76 and they like bought the rights for the movie like right then, I think, is what I read in this article. But it didn't happen for a really long time. But she was preparing all these things that she would have to do. She was like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to turn Louis into a woman. And one of the ideas, I'm glad it's gay, but the other idea to make it straight was to change Louis into a girl and make that girl Cher. And that would
Which is
have
I
also
know.
gay.
I saw that.
that's also gay. That would have fucked.
Which is also
Who's
gay.
the only woman who could play this? I know. Cher.
Share.
Yeah, it still keeps the queer energy pretty well, honestly. Honestly, I'm overheating in the hat. I'm taking it off.
The dark thoughts are
but
gone. She is reclaimed by the light.
I didn't think I said dark thoughts, but we can roll with it. I have dark thoughts about top hats. But yeah, I love how opinionated Anne Rice is about her works. I can't believe she was locked out, but I just love that she came around and she was like, everything Tom Cruise did was amazing. I called him on the phone. I told him it was amazing. She was just gushing about every single inch of it. And I just want to know what she thinks about Queen of the Damned.
I did not know that that was a related movie or title until I was in the IMDb trivia page for this movie. And then I was like, the Aaliyah movie?
I love
Oh, yeah,
that movie.
The same verse?
Now that we have done this movie, we can do Queen of the Damned, and I am so excited. I fell asleep 6 times while I watched that movie, and it took me a week and a half to watch it. But every moment that I woke back up, I was enthralled. It's a little confusing, but I'll tell you, it's fantastic. The plot of that one, which is like, there's another book called The
Queen of the Damned.
Vampire Lestat.
Oh.
Yeah, it's that. There's that and Queen of the Damned. So the next one is The Vampire Lestat, which is more about Lestat, and I think they like combine Queen of the Damned and the Vampire Lestat for Queen of the Damned. Because in the Vampire Lestat, it's a story about Lestat, and he goes to sleep for a long time, and then he hears some sick beats, and he wakes up, and he's like, I'm gonna be a fucking rock star. And so that's like the beginning of Queen of the Damned, and then they also add in the Queen of the Damned aspect of it, which is Vampire Queen, blah blah blah. Get to that in another time. But talk about a movie that's totally different. There we're focusing on Lestat, who, you know, he doesn't love that he's a vampire. He wouldn't have chosen it if he had the choice. He talks about that all the time, but he knows how to have a good time with the cards that he is dealt, and I respect him for that. You got to be a little bit of a sadist if you're a vampire. Yeah. He just wants to have a nice time. He's a party rocking kind of boy, and I love that about him.
The glass of
Party
rat's blood is
rockers in
half
the
full, okay?
house
Not half
tonight.
empty.
Yeah, and that glass, what's it filled with? It's blood, okay? That's what's in the cup.
Blood.
I particularly loved the scene where they're talking about his proclivities and like the type of person he wants to have first as like snacks. Like first to have a beautiful woman as his first dinner, and then for a second
A
dinner
fresh
he wanted
young girl, yeah, for
fresh
number
young
one.
girl. And the second one, that was like he wanted like a fancy rich person, right?
The second one was like a sexy girl, and then the third one was aristocracy.
Oh, okay.
Eat the rich,
so
baby.
it's a three course.
Mhm.
I was just so obsessed with that duo, though. Like the little dandy boy who
Mm-hmm.
killed the husband and the older lady with the poodles. That shit was hilarious.
And then he ate the poodles.
Yeah,
What are you gonna
Louis a
do?
mess. He's not good at this.
Yeah, I mean,
That's like, you fucking idiot.
look, he's going through a lot. His feelings are complicated. It's hard to fight his urges and really examine his morals and the implications in one go. He is not accounting for the fact that that woman just saw him eat two poodles, so like she's gonna have to go anyway. So you might as well have let the poodles live. But
I think he was more worried about the poodles making so much noise. That's what it seemed like to me. I know he also doesn't want to kill people, but he was like, shut up. And so he shut them up. But then it's like, what's more alarming, dogs barking or a woman screaming? Come on, sir. Be smart about this.
I don't know that I got that sense. I think I felt more like it was just a moral quandary, and in the moment he couldn't bring himself to do it. But I'd have to go back and rewatch the scene. I'm sure there's multiple facets to it.
But either way, it's fine. I see what you're saying too, for sure. But for that, I just felt like he was just fumbling around like a newborn baby vampire would.
He was a newborn baby vampire.
I
Thing in
know.
the
I'm saying
mess.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, I mean about the gay stuff though, it is interesting because there are lots of gay things to discuss about this movie, obviously, one of them being how gay it is and one of them being how gay it's not. It was regarded as a gay movie, at least to a degree, because IMDb trivia says that it is the first LGBT film to gross more than $100 million at the US box office. So IMDb trivia certified. But
This was
also,
very LGBT for 1994.
Yeah, this was
yeah,
literally a
and the 70s when it came out
blockbuster.
too.
But
Yeah.
also, according to Norm Macdonald from SNL, in his review
Oh,
of this,
yeah,
not gay enough.
exactly.
I was
Yeah, I
expecting it to be
mean,
gayer. That's part of the reason why I didn't have a great time with it last night, because I was like, it's not even that gay. And then I watched it again today and I was like, okay, 1994.
This
Like,
was
I was
groundbreaking
expecting
for
it to be
94.
like balls to the wall because it's our pride episode, you know what I
mhm.
mean?
That's
But
more subtle, nuanced
The show
LGBT.
is going to give you a lot of what you want there. I would say for sure check
oh
out the
yeah, I know
show
that.
because in my understanding of the book is that the vampires don't have sex like really at all. Like drinking blood is their sex basically.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no explicit gay sex to show us in the movie to be like, see, they're gay. But you know, anytime they're drinking blood together, drinking each other's blood, that's the gay sex, really. But
Oh yeah.
there were other gay elements that didn't make it into the movie. Um, and it's some more subtext stuff. Like apparently Lestat expects Louis to sleep in his coffin with them. So in the books, at least for a time, they share a coffin instead of
Yep.
having their own coffins. Eventually, they each get their own, but they sleep in one coffin together, like a married couple. Um, this one is like pretty explicit in the movie. They don't say, I guess, we're two gay dads, but they say, oh, the two of us are Claudia's dads now. This is our child together. So like that's gay. They could have been like, we're fathers together. But I mean, I think they laid it out pretty clear.
They said, and I quote, "We're two gay dads." I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yes. We are two
And
homosexual fathers.
yeah, and I mean, I don't think they called each other like lover, my love, beloved in the way that Louis and Claudia did. But I think it's pretty clear what we're meant to see. The director Neil Jordan basically said like I didn't unqueer it at all. Like I didn't like take any subtext out, but he kind of did imply that Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt as the performers kind of brought a slightly different element to their performances that was more like master and servant than it was husbands. And especially if they're like beefing, I can see how that bleeds in too. You know what I mean?
I think part of it is because it's has to be so abridged because it is a film.
They're covering so much. Yeah.
No, totally. They're covering 200 years, and like I remember from the book, there was a period of time where Louis at least had reverence for Lestat, but that does dwindle and fade, and then the resentment grows, and then they get a fix-it baby. So there's that, but at least he was like mesmerized by him at the beginning. But
in this show, there's much more of like a seduction before Louis even gets to the point of being like so depressed that he wants to be a vampire or gets pulled into that.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we were just saying, like it's not as gay as I thought it was going to be, but again, like especially bringing up the fact that the sex is the blood sucking, and like you only see them be intimate with people by sucking blood, and then like it's obviously intimate when he's sucking those beautiful women's blood all the time, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing when it's two fucking dudes, you know what I mean? Like this was a big deal. This totally, I could see how this would be such a big deal in 1994, especially in the climate, the social climate behind that was going on at the time. Like the AIDS crisis was like very much like right there, you know what I mean? So for them to have such a like outwardly queer movie that was literally a blockbuster with two of the most popular actors. I don't know how popular Brad Pitt was at that time, but Tom Cruise at least had some major roles. That's huge. So it still definitely deserves to be on our Pride lineup because it's history, and also Antonio Banderas, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, there's actually two gay couples in this movie, and Brad Pitt is in both of them. So
yeah, Brad Pitt is like wanted, and like I kind of get it.
Brad Pitt's like baby girl in this. Have you seen him in this? Oh my God. Whew. It's just stunning. Those contacts.
Also, just since you mentioned
really bright.
Since you mentioned the AIDS crisis and queer history, blah blah blah, I will say also, IMDb trivia said that Anne Rice wanted Tom Hanks to play Lestat at one point because she had just recently seen him in Philadelphia, which is a movie about someone going through the AIDS crisis. So,
and instead he declined and took Forrest Gump.
Yeah, and also like I cannot picture Tom Cruise being Lestat. I'm sure he would have done great, but Tom Cruise is that bitch in this movie.
Yeah, no, he is so perfectly psychotic. I know he's wearing contacts, but his crazy eyes are like just so good. Oh God. I also think it was really interesting that they have the veins. That was like an interesting choice from Stan Winston.
I do some on
designer.
Apparently they had to like hang upside down so all the blood would rush to their head for like 30 minutes and before the veins could even begin to start being drawn on, and then they'd have to do it over and over again because the blood would rush out of their face as soon as they were back upright. I don't know why they didn't just do it while they were upside down. I feel like there could have been a workaround for that, but that's where how they would get like the bulging veins to know. I don't know. You'd think they could just be
why
like,
would
I
they
know
have
where
to do
veins
it
are.
like that?
Yeah. So blood would like run to their face and their veins would get large, and that way they could like see where the veins were, apparently.
It has to be accurate to their biology. Doctors will watch this movie and be like, that's not what a vein looks like otherwise. Nobody critique mine.
I don't fucking blame Brad Pitt for wanting to quit then. That
being
sounds like waterboarding. That sounds like literal torture. That's horrible. Poor guy.
You don't like to hang upside down as a child? I can't relate.
Can we talk about the banger of a character who is not a vampire though, and that is Christian Slater, and how it was supposed to be River Phoenix, and so this movie is like dedicated to River, but he unfortunately like tragically OD'd like weeks before they started filming.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's
so and so sad. At the end it'll say like this movie's dedicated to River Phoenix.
Oh, I missed that. The way I watched this, the credits went away. So I wanted to watch the credits Yeah, it's like I watched it on this app on Plex and it like got small and I tried to make it big again because I wanted to experience the beautiful sunrise or whatever the fuck sunset. No, it's a sunrise. Over the bridge and it wouldn't let me, so I missed that nuance. That's so sad. You know, I haven't really seen anything with River Phoenix, so I'm not as familiar with
Have
him
you
as
seen
an
Stand By
actor, but I
Me?
do. No, I still haven't seen Stand By Me.
Oh, I can only watch it like once a year. It makes me cry.
I heard it's a doozy, but a killer soundtrack.
And then he's in Indiana Jones briefly.
What?
He plays young Indiana in, is it the second one?
Well, then I've definitely seen him because I've seen all the Indiana Jones movies, except for the most recent one. Sorry, Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yeah, it's Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade. Is that the third one?
That's the third one.
Yeah, so he plays young Indiana at the beginning of that, and he
Okay.
is chef's kiss.
Well, I will say Christian Slater did do a great job, and I also forgot about how hot 90s Christian Slater is, and it really made me want to watch Heathers again, like real bad.
You
Real
know my
bad.
love of Heathers.
Yeah, just the whole setup for this movie is so interesting, you know? Like imagine being Christian Slater's character and you're like, "I'm a journalist. This will be a fun thing."
He works in
And then
radio.
This
yeah,
guy's razzing me. He can't be he can't be a vampire.
yeah. Honestly, weirdly, that whole setup reminds me of the setup for Creep 2. That's all I'll say.
Interesting,
Although-
interesting, interesting.
Yeah, it's like a person who does YouTube videos interviewing strange folks is like the premise kind of idea for it.
Mm.
So I see where they got their inspiration. Also, 100%, like 99% of Twilight came from this movie specifically.
Oh
Like
yeah.
all of
Yeah.
the Paris vampires, that's totally like Volturi 100%, you know?
Also, on IMDb trivia, it said that this movie surpassed Bram Stoker's Dracula, which came out 2 years earlier, 1992. It surpassed it as the highest grossing vampire film and held the record for a decade until surpassed by Van Helsing in 2004. But it
I love Van
remains
I
Helsing.
love Van
Sorry.
Helsing.
I love that movie so much. Keep going.
Yeah.
It says it remains the highest grossing R-rated vampire film. And I put in my notes, do we think they specified R rating here so that they don't have to add that it was surely beat by the Twilight Saga?
Yes.
That's
There's no way that the Twilight Saga
so
did not make
funny.
more money than Interview with the
Yeah,
Vampire.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
yeah, yeah,
Interview with
yeah.
the Vampire. It is what it is.
That's so funny. 100%. Oh, I love an R-rated vampire movie though. They need to be R-rated because I think like the use of nudity in this film is so like grotesque and horrific and like really like well done. Like obviously it makes you incredibly uncomfortable, but every time they use it, I feel like it's such a great like horrific gut punch. Um it really takes it there because like I don't know, like the two moments, like the vampire theater, which we'll get to later, that was incredible, and then also that moment with Claudia, she sees the woman through the window. Um, that was so stunning. Oh, speaking of women being tortured, though, I just have to give some credit to that scene with the two women when they're still in Louisiana before Claudia comes onto the scene. And I just loved that scene with Lestat draining that girl and then torturing that
Your
other
friend
girl.
can't hold her wine. I tuckered her out. Are you sure you can handle me?
It was
Sexy.
it was very sexy, but it was so scary and like it was so erotic too. Like the woman being so into him, like biting her breast, and she's like writhing around in ecstasy in that moment that she realizes that like she's covered in blood and she has been fed upon, like because she's so drunk too. It's such a terrifying scene. I think it was really well done. And also, I want to close my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, also it really also drives home the whole sucking blood is having sex because it's clearly, life-giving for Lestat, but also the woman is like in ecstasy experiencing it. Like she's living her goddamn life until she looks down and sees blood all over her shirt. And also, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure there is a scene at some point where one of them is like drinking from a lady's throat and the other one is like drinking from
That's
somebody's
the very
wrist.
first
First
time that
one.
they show them feeding, and that's in a tavern, and that's the tavern owner.
Right. And so it's like, okay, even if they're only drinking each other's blood that one time, they're drinking someone's blood together. And so that is also them having
Threesome.
sex.
Threesome.
Very, very
So,
sexy. Oh,
but yeah,
something
she
that's
looks great and it's so sad and so scary when she like is enjoying herself so much and then realizes what's actually happening to her and is like begging for her life and he's just like like he's fully playing with his food. He's a guy who loves to have fun and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, Louis?
well, and that's the thing. He goes through such extremes in this moment. Maybe not that extreme for what he would normally do to someone, but in other scenes we haven't seen Lestat like torture people in the same way, and he's really trying to like force Louis to come to terms with his new lifestyle and what he has to be a vampire, and be like, look, let me prey on the fact that you care about humans. Like, if you care about her, you'll kill her, because otherwise I'm making this terrible for her. And
Otherwise
that's why he
I'm putting
puts her
her
in
in
that
this
coffin.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit
Yeah.
on it. I'm gonna be
And
like,
then
you
she
like it in there, girl?
and he tells her that she's already dead, and she's so like, blood starved,
Am
or
I
not blood
dead?
starved, but
Yeah.
blood drained and drunk, that she like believes it for a second. Like, it's just a really horrific scene. You don't think of like jump scare, scary stuff happening too much in Interview with the Vampire. It's not that kind of a movie, but it does have some like very affecting scenes still that'll get under your skin.
I will say I think there's a really iconic line at one point after the Louisiana Purchase jump scare. That's the jump scare of the movie. But when he was talking about his 3 meals, he said evil tastes really good. And I thought it was interesting that he was like, democracy tastes bad now that this has become America. Like, I just thought it was a little interesting note that he was like, democracy. Maybe that's Anne Rice, her politics jumping out. I don't know what her politics are, but to be like, democracy good, aristocracy bad.
Well, also he was being super racist in that moment too, because he was like saying other types of blood he likes better, blah 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 blah. So I think he's just saying whatever he can say to Louis to try to get him to drink blood at that earlier on when he says the evil thing. He's like, maybe he'll be like Edward Cullen in the future. Or no. Oh no, in the future, because it's like, what year do you think this was? When was the Louisiana Purchase? It was before that. But he was like, maybe like he'll kill bad people and then he won't feel so bad about killing people. He's really going out of his way to try to make his lover be down to clown with being a vampire. But it's not in the cards for young Louis. He's destined for an eternal life of being a major bummer.
Yeah, I mean, he is very Edward Cullen. Like, that's for sure the blueprint for Edward Cullen is who's like moody and broody and a vegetarian and
hates this for himself. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ugh. I think
Maybe
the
one
way
day
that
he'll find a love.
he is the blueprint. I think the way that Claudia is brought into this movie though is so incredible, and like I can't get over the fact that that's freaking like what, probably 10-year-old Kirsten
She's
Dunst.
11.
She's 11.
She's 11. Okay, yeah, because she was 12 when it came out, but production was probably the year before. But anyway, like that scene with the plague where Louis goes and finds her in this dire situation with mommy who's been dead for a really long time. Like her eyeballs turned to goo. That shit. There's another scene where it's horrific in a more subtle way, mostly just effects
And
makeup
another
way.
mommy issues make clear reference
Right.
because
Yes.
it's
We're
very
never
psycho.
done with mommy issues.
There's a lot of mommy issues here. Uh, Poor thing. And just the way that whole scene plays out, like he is so like enamored with young Claudia that he can't help but suck her blood, which is I think he was trying to like take away her pain in a way too. At least that's how it was described in the book. But I just can't get over Tom Cruise in this scene when he comes in and starts dancing with the fucking corpse. That shit was psychotic. There's
He's
still
having
life
a
in her yet.
good time.
Tom
Oh
Cruise is
my
just a silly little Billy
God.
boy.
He's fucked up. I love him. I love him. Oh man. And also just Claudia's transformation in general. I thought that that was so fun. I love that when you become a vampire, two things happen. Well, three. One, you get clean. Because do you remember also the scene when Louis turns and he has blood all over his mouth and then the
I
blood
know.
just disappears? I
Just
was
like,
like, okay, that was weird. So, yeah, we're actually not accurate at having this blood. We would have no blood because of
well, they have
magic.
blood later on. I think that's just related, just in the moment of transformation, you get
It
tidied
was
up to
a
be nicely
really,
presentable.
really interesting choice. But you also get voluminous hair, just gorgeous, bouncy curls, volume, if not curls, you get the volume that Louis has, just beautiful volume.
And no
And
split ends.
no split ends, no split ends. And three, you get to think that statues are alive for a second. I really didn't understand why that was a thing.
Yeah, that was
It was a
wild.
I get like when he does the like voiceover thing, he's like, it's like statues were moving, but they weren't. And I was like, okay, but they weren't. And you made the statue
And
like
you
a
confused me
live
for
woman.
1 second. Yeah.
It was like an interesting choice visually to try to show that he had like super sight now. I don't think it totally worked, but it was funny.
Yeah, I think the subtext of that is like I now have such hyper perception and can move so fast that even things that are standing completely still like a literal statue, I
But that's confusing. He's gonna feel like he's on mushrooms all the time.
Right?
That things are moving when they're not. That's not a good thing. That doesn't seem like a superpower.
I feel
He's
the
just gonna
life
seem
pulse of
crazy.
everything around me, even cold hard stone. I don't know, girl.
I don't know. I get the like when it's on the written page, it makes sense, but like the way that they visualized it, I was like, okay, girl. Sure.
This is now a gargoyle movie. Yeah.
um But yeah, I just think that like Claudia does make this whole movie for me because I could just watch baby Kirsten Dunst act for the rest of my life. She's so compelling in this role. And I just think it's really interesting time for us to be watching this because at least Chelsea and I just saw Abigail. And I think like the concept of the immortal child is really, really interesting because it is just like horrible to imagine being a preteen for eternity. I was so ugly as a preteen, horrible. Even
If
vampirism
you were
and big
a
poofy
vampire.
curls. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's tragic. Her story is so tragic, and she's just a tool to make Lestat happy and Louis happy in a way too, even though Louis really loves her, but it's really, really sad.
But also like her coming to the realization, like she's like, you did this to me, and she's like, you both did this to me, like you, and it's just like I get why she decided to become like even more murderous.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm
Yeah.
actually gonna bite the hand that feeds.
I just think it's also so fun karmically for Lestat to have to deal with the bratty child in theory forever. Like that's so what you get. Did you think that you were gonna have a child that was perfectly well behaved all the time? You're her mother,
No,
so also she learns from you. And
you
you're
gave her
such a
like
bitch. Your child
super
obviously is gonna
strength.
be a bitch. Like,
Lestat is the mother though.
yeah, no, he is.
Yeah, like
He gave birth to
yeah,
her. Yeah.
yeah.
I
I just
loved that whole montage though of her
mhm.
like how she acclimates into the family and like her like keeps she keeps killing the people that come to the house, and she's like, I know you said no killing in the house. Like it's so funny. And like
And then
it's really
he's like,
horrific
you
in the
clean
book
this up. And
too.
she's like, no, you clean it up. And then she stomps off.
I
She's
love
like,
her.
you can't make me.
It is really creepy in the book though, the way that she lures people in. I mean, like they do a good job of visualizing that here too. Like when
Let me
she
kiss
is
it
the
and make
little
it
lost
better.
child. Yeah, that one's really good when she's the lost child. And the lady comes and helps her on the bench when she wants that dolly, and the guy's being a dick thinking that she can't afford it, and she's like, go fuck yourself, I get the dolly. Like her smile in that moment was so good. Um but yeah, I mean, she's a child. This is why the Volturi wanted to kill Renesmee. After all,
I get it.
the mind of a child, and obviously she matures, even though her brain's only going to stay one size for eternity. Um, but she doesn't have the same like decision making skills that a fully formed adult would have had. So like she's really mad at Lestat. She blames him for everything. She moves from hating him, finding out what happened, hating him so much to killing him in what seems like a day and a half. You know what I mean? Like she is rash and brash and will do she's impulsive and she fucking kills Lestat in a very slay way. Kills
Yeah,
him.
yeah. I mean, they get into that in the show a little more explicitly. Obviously, Claudia in the show is 14. She's not 11, so she's a little older. But they really are like, when you change someone this young, they have a young person's impulse control, which is to say, no impulse control. They have a young person's
Exactly.
growing body appetite, which is to say, an
A
appetite.
lot.
Yeah, the
Ravenous.
ravenous, exactly. And also they just don't have necessarily the experience of life or wherewithal in general to be following this sets of rules that keep you safe, that adult vampires can navigate a little more easily. And they get into that in the theater where they're like, we really don't change people this young, so this is whack.
Yeah.
But you know, like we said, Lestat saw that Louis was getting a little discontent with their life together in New Orleans, and he said, "I know what's gonna save this marriage, a baby." And
What
it
else?
really, yeah, I mean, it fucking was his. I won't say it was his downfall exactly, because you could argue, is he still fallen later on? But it sure
Knocked
is
him
his,
down for a
knocked
fair
him down.
100 years
Yeah,
or something like that. Like a
yeah.
long time.
It's just
But
such
yeah,
good karmic re-uppance or whatever you want to call it too, because it's
comeuppance.
like you made her and she can destroy you, and don't think just because you made the both of them that they're going to be under your thumb forever or do what you want forever or live by your rules forever. Like they are their own creatures, and you gave them this gift if you think it's a gift, and you can't take it away.
Yeah, I've just read this really interesting book. That was also a horror book about vampires. Actually, Sydney's the reason I read it because she sent me a TikTok of great revenge stories, and this was one of them. But basically, it was like from the perspective of one of like Dracula's wives. You find out from moment one she's just killed him, and then the rest of the book is from the beginning. And I just think that trope of the like controlling like master vampire who has his like underlings is so interesting because it's come up a fair few times now. Also in another book I read right after that one, and Education in Malice, it has that same sort of things like the power dynamic between the like sire and whoever was created by them is really interesting. It's called A Dowry of Blood. Sorry, I had to look it up. That was the book that I was first referring to. But yeah, like Lestat, like obviously didn't fuck with his sire, which is Armand. Um, and so he escaped and went away, but then he goes around and replays the same sort of scenario out onto his underlings as well, being controlling and obnoxious and the like. So trauma just continues down the line, as we know.
Trauma is just a cycle. Somebody has
It's
to
like
break
generational.
it.
It is. This is vampire generational trauma playing out before our eyes.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned before too, Lestat's whole thing is he's always like, I was not given a choice, but I'll give you a choice. Do you want to be a vampire? Yes or no?
And then he doesn't like really give him a choice, you know? Like he
He's like,
does, but
you're gonna be dead if you say no, by the way. So,
like
I've put you in an unwinnable position. So I hope you're saying
Totally.
yes, but
And then also, like, if he even, I don't really remember what he says to Claudia in that moment. But
I don't think
either
he says anything
way,
to her as much. That's
she's,
the choice is Louise.
yeah. And even if she could consent, she can't because she's fucking 11 years old.
She
So,
can't possibly understand what she's being asked.
no,
Yeah.
she has no idea what is going on. She still thinks her mommy is alive. She still thinks that daddy's
ugh.
at the store. You know what I mean? And they've been dead for weeks. So it's so sad. Her play is so sad. And I really like the way that it's fleshed out in the book. So I'm excited to see how it's fleshed out in the show because it gets really dire, and like her sexual frustration is a big part of it too, which they don't really go into in the movie, which, like, a relief.
Thank
I
God,
don't need to see
probably.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to see that.
I mean,
But
but
it
like
is
thank
an
God they
interesting
aged her
concept.
up.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really well done and
Yeah.
interesting in the show. And I see what you mean, Monica, when you were talking earlier about the vibes being whack in the book, because, like, again, she is 5 in the book. Even when she's 11 in the movie, you can understand her perspective as someone who is older than that age, being like, I want to have love and sex and intimacy, and these are the only 2 people in my life who know the reality of what I am. And, like, I am a 5-year-old girl, but also I'm a 35-year-old woman. And what am I meant to do with that on my own?
Like, I
And
don't
I'm
want
turning to
fucking
you.
dollies
And
anymore.
yeah, and, like, I'm not gonna go fuck Lestat because my mom's a bitch. So I gotta
I
go
can't talk to my
to
mommy about
Louis
this,
instead.
but also like I don't this isn't a conversation for daddies.
Yeah, but it's like this weird, like, the kiss obviously is weird even in the movie. And Kirsten Dunst as an actress was like, I thought it was gross. Boys have cooties. Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt, but he's, to me, was an adult man. And that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
it. And everybody was like, you're so lucky you got to kiss Brad Pitt. And she's like, ugh.
That's
Yeah,
my
But
I've heard
brother.
her. Yeah.
yeah, she was like, first of all, didn't want to. Second of all, I did it because it's my job and I love my job and this is my art. But then she didn't have another on-screen kiss until she was 15 because she was like, I'm not doing that. But
There.
yeah, I mean, it is this very weird thing where she can't even really engage with anyone else because no one knows that
Well,
she's an adult or will understand that she's an adult, or
and none of
and
them,
then she's
and
also
they aren't
not
even,
an adult. So
and they're not treating her like an adult either. That's why I think that I honestly missed it last night when I watched it the first time, the doll scene when Lestat
mhm.
gives her a doll on what's essentially her birthday. Maybe it's her change day. Um, but and it's revealed that the dead woman, the beautiful naked woman that we had seen scenes before, was there, like, molding on her bed.
Buried
I told
underneath the
Under the
dollies.
buried
dollies.
under dollies. I missed that last night, so I was like, why did they get so mad at her? I, like, looked down that exact second. It's only on the screen for like a second. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's just like such a childish thing to do, that she, like, covets this woman's form, so she takes it and then she hoards it to have it close to her in her bed. You know what I mean? Like, it's so sad, and that's why I'm so, one, I was like, good for her when she Lestatted Lestat. That was hilarious. How she fooled him with those cherubic boys. Um, but I was so happy once they got to Paris because at least she got to start dressing like a woman of the time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I loved that they changed her. Obviously the style is different in Paris, but, like, she was wearing, like, things that I've seen in like Moulin Rouge or whatever, you know, like the
She didn't
completely
have to dress
different.
like a baby doll anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's wearing corsets. She's wearing
She was
what the
wearing,
other
Put her
like-
women
hair
are wearing,
up.
just mini. Yeah, she
Yeah,
looked
she was
so
just
cute.
wearing women's clothes, but tiny.
The scene
Exactly.
where she cuts all of her hair off, I love that tantrum.
And then it
That's
just grows
so
back.
good. I know. And then she's like, I'm not allowed to ever change. I can't do shit around here. I can't grow up. I can't even cut my hair. Like, this is crazy. Why would you
She
do
can't
this
even-
to me?
She can't even have a fucking tantrum. She can't even have a fucking cut my hair off tantrum. That's so important. Everybody's got to cut bangs at some point in their life, you know? Come on. But yeah, I mean, I think that I enjoy the brief moment that they're happy together in Paris, like so much, just because I want my girl to be happy.
Yeah.
But I I forgot what happens in the book because it's been a while. And so when everything happened, I was like, "What? What do you mean that everything isn't
Yeah.
just good for the rest of eternity?"
Yeah. That part,
fucking-
in the show right now, as of the time that we're recording, they just got to like the big theater reveal scene episode.
Ooh.
Like we just got there in the show. And so it's like very cool and fun and so slay. And the Santiago in it is like so incredible. Like you have to watch it. It is insane. The mortal
Is
woman on
Santiago
stage
the
bit-
creepy guy
yeah,
who
the main actor
who
who
mimics
saw
Yeah.
him?
Aunt. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And does
can
the
read
dramatic
minds.
So
coat flip when they meet each other in the dark under the tunnel. Fucking love that.
Again,
I love
Edward
that
Cullen,
fucking-
because he can read minds.
and like he's a dramatic bitch. But it's so good in the show, and Claudia is in the show, but she's not there for the interview, and like you have her diaries, and so there is kind of an implied like, where's Claudia? What's happened to her? But I did not know. And now, I'm gonna keep watching the show, but I'm protesting in my heart a little bit. But yeah, I mean the
I really
Paris
slowed
stuff,
it down for this show. Damn.
it's so fascinating. It's so worth a watch. But yeah, I mean I love the coat flip meeting, the initial invitation. Like that's the thing about Claudia is she has like Louis's frustration with being a vampire and vampire life and being frozen as she is for eternity, which for her means being a child and for Louis means being depressed. But she also has things in common with her mother Lestat because they both have the thrill of the hunt, and they like to get a little silly, cool, goofy with it, and like they don't feel shame for that, and they're like, let's spice it up. If I'm gonna kill people, I might as well serve cunt while I'm doing it. And Louis is such a bummer about that. He just like he can't give that to her. And then they go to Paris and it's like, ugh, finally, like a little fun again.
Dude, for real though, because Lestat's like, oh, some people have superpowers. He can like read minds, whatever. So can what's his name? What's his name
Santiago.
Yeah.
Santiago. And then becomes clear in the film at least that Claudia can like read souls because she can like read what like Armand is saying in his heart about Louis. And Louis's gift is just magical level clinical depression. Like that's what he got.
Louis's gift is everybody wants him. He is so sexy.
Louis's
everybody
gift is
wants
raw
him as a
sex appeal.
partner.
It's raw sex appeal and clinical depression. Beyond
It's
what
that
we can understand as
must
humans.
that he elicits, and that came straight from Brad Pitt. And Tom Cruise didn't vibe with it, but someone out there was gonna sniff those pheromones and go wild.
But also, I read somewhere that like it was like his power was still being able to like feel human emotion, and it was like that is such
His
not
connection,
power
humanity.
when you
Yeah,
have
big
to
cop-out.
murder people to eat.
Okay, no, now then, no, then you're saying that, then I am correct, and it is canon that his superpower is magical level, vampiric clinical depression, like super depression. Good for you, Louis. So sorry.
R.I.P. Louis, you would have loved SSRIs and microdosing.
Oh my god.
Shrooms would have really
Before we
expanded
go
his brain.
into the whole vampire troop thing. One part they didn't do in the movie that was in the book is there's like a whole section before they go to Paris where they're looking for other vampires.
Yeah,
And I
they kind
think
of
that
just
they could
gloss
have
over
dealt
it.
with like a little bit more of that to make it like more exciting for them to be meeting Armand and meeting Santiago on the street like that, because they had been searching for a really long time and they found these like weird like beast vampires that were like not human like at all, or they kind of were but not really. They weren't like sentient in a human way. They were just like big beasties. Did they do that in the show? That was my question. Ooh, okay, cool.
The
Yeah,
Beastie
and
Boys.
exactly what they call them in the show. That's so weird that you knew that term. But yeah, no, they get into all of that in the show. In the movie, they do like one mention where we see Claudia reading a book, and it's like Claudia is researching vampires, and then they're like, anyway. But yeah, I mean, Monica is right. The emotional context that I see from the show and she's read in the books is very much like they're
They think
I
there's no other vampires at this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Well, and also I don't know if this is in the book, but I assume probably there is a period where Claudia leaves Louis and Lestat and like ventures out on her own and meets this other horrible monster of a vampire who's like a really terrible, bad, evil person. And
Might have
hurts
been the
her.
part where I fell asleep on the road trip.
But so she comes back, and when they escape, it's like she's met 4 vampires, and this is like a big line in the show. She's like, I've met 4 vampires, and Louis is the only one who doesn't suck and isn't absolutely terrible. And like, is anyone else good? Basically, like, is there anyone else in the world who's not a fucking monster? And they have this like long search that is not fruitless, but doesn't give them what they're looking for. And then eventually they go to Paris and meet these other people. And it's also like set against the backdrop of like World War I, maybe World War II, maybe. I'm not sure. The timelines are very confusing for me. But the war in Europe as well. And so like it's very sad and depressing in 1,000 different ways. And in the show, they're like, and the blood of the people that we're drinking is sad and depressing because they're war torn, and like you can't get hungry, like you can't get full, you can't get warm. It's this like huge celebration when they finally find other people and community and people to be with, and they're celebrating it, and they're doing it in public, even if they're being a little kooky crazy about it. Like, they're proud.
Yeah, it's supposed to be so euphoric, and that's why it's all the more terrifying that immediately goes wrong too, you know? And that's also adds to kind of like the allure of Armand that Louis feels, because, you know, he seems like this man with all of these answers, and he's been around for 400 years, and he created Lestat and all this stuff, and it's like this is like the thing for him. And then it makes the betrayal all the more poignant because they're like, we thought we found our salvation in our people, but they immediately are coming for the one thing that I love in my entire life, which is Claudia, the only thing that makes this eternal life worth living. And they come for her just because she exists and because she killed Lestat, it seems.
Yeah, because they say like that is a crime punishable by death, is to kill your own kind, which is
Oh.
also like,
Isn't that so
yeah,
ironic?
that's what you guys are doing, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah. So yeah, like,
a
oh,
little
so
bit of a plot hole.
who kills you after you kill the vampire? What if
Well,
you
we
have a really
know.
good reason? Yeah, it's Louis.
But also Armand says about them, I thought this part was weird too. Armand seems to bond with Louis because Louis is different than the vampire theater company. And he says he's become disillusioned with his theater company because they forgot the #1 rule of being a vampire, which is be powerful, beautiful, and without regret. And I'm like, but what is he talking about? Because they seem like they're powerful and beautiful and without regret. So, like, what part of that did they break? And
He regrets
Louis
still
is
hanging
a
out with
man
them
with
because
1 zillion regrets. So, like, why are you? He's
Louis
different
regrets
than
his
them. He's the
own
one breaking the
existence.
rule, though. So, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but Armand loves him.
Yeah, but
so...
I love
he's got that
him.
sexy
But Daddy,
power
I
of
love
clinical
him.
depression.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody
joke.
loves
I
a
can
depressed
fix
hot
him.
boy, okay?
That's the vibes. They're like, I can cheer him up. I know what to do. I'm Armand. Look how long my hair is. You think his hair is long. Oh, that was one of the notes from Anne Rice on this part. He was like, well, I wish I wish Antonio Banderas had had his natural curly hair, but the wig was still good. That was like, she went into that much detail in this article that I read. She like went through like every character and every single thing she liked the most.
Armand's character is supposed to be like a 17-year-old ginger Russian.
Yeah, he's a red
vampire.
Also very Edward Cullen. Oh, he's
Yes.
a 17-year-old ginger. Okay, interesting.
Okay. Yeah, interesting change of pace, but I'm really glad that it was Antonio Banderas because he is so alluring in this role. Oh my God.
He
Did
is
you know
very
this was like
sexy.
this was like his breakout role?
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
good.
As it should
apparently.
be.
Which is
Oh my
crazy
God.
to me, but I guess he was always a superstar when I knew him. So
Yeah,
this was like
I'm
his
like,
big.
my break into Antonio Banderas was fucking Zorro, and he was
Yeah.
already the fucking
Right.
star of Zorro. Ugh,
Well, because
can
I
we do
guess
Zorro on a fifth Tuesday? Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Antonio Banderas, I didn't know this about him, so maybe I'm going to sound stupid saying it, but he's from Spain and he'd been like working as an actor in Spain and doing movies there, but this was his like breakthrough
Oh, yeah.
American role. And
Cool.
he did dub his own lines for the Spanish Catalan release. So he did a little
That's
double
cool.
duty. Yeah. But it was another one of those things, like you're saying, where Anne Rice was like, ugh, this bitch does not look like what Armand is supposed to look like. This is very different. But then she saw it and she was like, well, he slayed. So
She's like, okay, I see the vision.
you're
Talk
forgiven
about raw
and I'm
sexual
sorry.
chemistry. Because, like, it seems like what you guys are saying, because I didn't research the movie as much as I researched, like, book crossover with movie, was basically what y'all are saying is that Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, like, didn't really have, they didn't
They didn't fuck
vibe.
with each other. Yeah.
They didn't fuck with each other. Yeah, I
They
feel
didn't like each other's acting process, and Tom Cruise thought Brad Pitt was stinky, and Brad Pitt thought Tom Cruise was kind of a diva and needed to be in charge of everything.
I think that totally affected like the on-screen chemistry too, because I watched the beginning part and I was like, that was supposed to be the gay part. I know that
That's the
because
love part.
I know what I
yeah.
just saw. And I was like, it's not even that gay. And I stand by it now because the chemistry like was not there. Then you watch the end of this movie and you watch that fucking final scene with Antonio Banderas and Brad Pitt, the breakup scene. I was just like on the floor rolling around. Like that was the steamiest, it's not gay, they didn't kiss scene I've ever seen. Like, woo, they had chemistry for sure.
They absolutely had chemistry.
For sure. But I mean,
I always thought Antonio Banderas was one of the sexiest men in the world.
I mean, we've all
yeah.
seen Spy Kids. So
Yeah, exactly.
It's about Zorro for me, man. But yeah, also Spy Kids. He's so sexy in
He's
Spy
so
Kids.
sexy in
Zorro
Spy Kids.
did something to me like as a child. Like I saw Zorro and I was like, talk about bisexual awakening. It also really
Yes.
scared me. Isn't Catherine Zeta-Jones in the first
in
one?
it, yeah.
Yeah. That's where my Catherine Zeta-Jones thing started, is from fucking Zorro. Whew. We gotta do Zorro. It's also scary. Scary things happen. There's a decapitation. Okay, so keep that in mind. Spoiler alert for Zorro. Sorry. But I have to say too, like, again, it continues to be super tragic with everything that happens with Claudia. It is the saddest story ever told. Like, legitimately, it's really sad. But the whole her name escapes you unfortunately, but
Madeline.
the new mommy Madeline that she tries to find when she realizes she's losing Louis to Armand because she can never fight Armand, and it seems like Armand is gonna try to swoop in on her man.
And
that part was just so
she's
sad.
a little girl, and Louis loves adult men, and she's never going to be able to be his partner in that way, and he will always be lonely and feel lonely in this world, and so will she. So if he's going to be looking for another partner, she's like, I have to find a new companion. I have to find
someone needs to protect her. Literally,
not
she
just
needs someone to protect her.
but also to just be with her. And she's like, what am I gonna do? Change a child? What am I gonna do? Be with a pedophile? Like, my best bet is to find a mother. And the mother that she finds too is so sad because it's like
She's
Louis
clearly
trying to be like,
lost
do
a
you
child.
understand what you're getting into? Yeah. And she's
Well,
like,
it feels
this is
like
a
a big
child that can't die.
Die.
And that sounds good to me because I have this little
exactly
locket that shows my child that did die. So, like, if I get to have this 11-year-old girl that I can care for forever, great.
It's an
perfect.
ideal pair.
I feel like that was a huge self-insert for Anne Rice in that character of Madeline,
Which
which
is so
makes it all the
crazy
more
because
tragic.
apparently she wrote this book and then everyone was like, oh, so Claudia was based on your own experiences losing your daughter. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then it was only after she thought about it a little more that she was like, okay,
Yeah,
I see what
maybe.
you mean. Okay, I guess maybe that was part of it.
Sometimes you compartmentalize so hard when you're grieving that like the clearest reference goes pusha shasha.
What
You're
do
like,
you mean
no,
I
that was an
literally made
organic
her
thought.
5 years old, the same age as my daughter, and I never thought about that for one other second.
Yeah. The scene where they burn up is so scary
It's
and
so
so
sad.
I really
sad.
thought they were
And
gonna escape because again, they haven't gotten that far in the show
well,
yet.
I forgot. I was like, they don't die, do they? I don't remember the end. Do they die? Adam's sitting there silent, and I'm like, fuck, they're gonna die.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
And
I really was
man,
like, could she hide under her skirt and like Madeline will die, but Claudia
Right.
will be fine hiding under there
that's
or
what I
something?
thought was gonna happen too, like a sacrifice kind of thing. But no. But we have to have that rage,
Sad.
revenge, fucking scythe fight with Louis. That shit was sick. That was sick. When he burned everybody up, and then anybody who got out, he scythed them.
Yeah, that was so great. We
He
need more
sliced
He
sites.
went full
Santiago
John
in
Wick.
half.
Yeah,
That was so cool.
You killed my dog. You killed my vampire daughter.
exactly.
I love that Armand's little twink baby boy that he brings around to snack on saves the day. Like,
Right?
that poor kid. Someone, Child Protective Services, come in and help. But
It was the 1800s.
he's still
There's no
alive.
child protective services.
I know that. Let me make my jokes. I understand.
There's no therapy. There's no child protective services.
There's nothing for
and it's
no
just
one.
fucked. Get over it. Yeah.
Get over it. Don't have feelings.
Go with it.
Well, here, as we reach the modern era in this movie, though, I was fucking cackling. Adam and I were dying because I just love that Louis like gets super into movies.
He's a fucking movie buff. He's like, here are my
He's
letterbox
such a film
report.
bro.
I know he's literally a film bro. That's what Adam was saying. Adam's like, wait another decade, he starts a podcast, and I was like,
yeah.
no.
Okay, but Louis,
Let's
come
have
on the
Louis
pod.
Yeah, Louis be a
Spooky
guest.
Tuesday. I love that so much, and I also love his like slay late '80s suit that he's
Yes,
wearing
I
when he
also
comes
put that
out.
in my
Oh,
notes. His 80s suit.
Yeah, he was
looks
looking
so
real good.
He looks great. And I mean, it's like funny that he is a movie buff, but it is also like there's something emotional and moving in it where he's like, finally, I got to see a sunrise again. I got to see
yeah,
the color blue of the
it's
ocean.
effective.
Like I haven't been these things I haven't been able to see for 100 years. And like finally they're within my grasp, even if it is just a movie. Like that's meaningful to him.
Which, like, when you put it that way, I guess being a film bro is fine.
Being a film bro is not
we're
fine,
film
but being a film
broettes.
buff is beautiful.
Yes, we're film
The
buffs, and it's a
beauty
great
of
thing.
cinema and art and the power of reaching a
the way
hand
that
in the
it
void.
depicts humanity. You know, that's what he wants to see. This is as close as he can get to being human again. Is watching the way that humans choose to depict themselves on the silver screen. It's beautiful, but also he's gonna have a podcast in 10 years. You just wait. Uh, but I loved the way that this movie ended, and it's different from the book. And I'm about to look up what happened because I don't exactly remember. But must be so fucking annoying for Louis to be like, I just told you bar none, the saddest story ever told of my magical grade clinical depression and how vampirism ruined my life. And Christian Slater is like, give me that right here. Give it to me right now. Hell yeah. What?
Okay, but like, I'd probably do it too. Fuck it, we ball.
I think Louis really thought that he's like, my superpower is my connection to humanity. Therefore, if I talk about this with a human, especially a human whose job it is to do essentially human interest news stories, they will understand. And what he forgot in that moment is people like Lestat were once human too. And so therefore there are humans out there who would be future Lestats if turned into vampires. So like just something to consider. Not something that he really processed much, but he just assumed that a human would be sympathetic to his story and his specific takeaways from that story. But everyone comes to, he should have learned in his time as a movie buff that everybody brings their own perspectives and experiences to the story, and sometimes they walk away with different lessons.
Also, I read, so Monica, tell me if I'm like wrong, that like at least in the book, uh his name's what, Daniel, right?
Yeah. Well, his name
He
isn't Daniel in the book. That's a movie invention.
Oh, well, Christian Slater in the books, so not Christian Slater, is more kind of like, okay, but did that really happen? Like he like pushes back more because like Louis is sad and it's only like Louis's point of view, where in the movie he's just kind of like, yeah, okay, like let's go with this. Make me one too. So like in the book, he's more like a pushing
There's
back
a
on
lot of,
Louis.
yeah, at least at the beginning, there's a lot more skepticalness. There's a whole other parts that I just remembered right now. There's like a whole like female character that I totally forgot about. And if I remember correctly, I think like Louis is a vampire and he's trying to be in love with a girl who's a human, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work out, as you might
Shocker.
imagine. Oh, by the way, shouts out Thandie Newton's character. Love Thandie Newton so much.
Yeah.
She is like the maid or whatever who brings the food. She was amazing. I love her so much. And she would
Yeah.
go on to be in Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise like 6 years later. So
Look at
that's
her
funny.
go.
Here's something that happened in the book that did not happen in the movie. That's fucking crazy, and I totally forgot about. Lestat, because he knows Armand, is part of the reason that leads to Claudia's death. He like puts that into motion. I don't know all the details of it now, but that is a big part of it, which is super fucked up. And then the actual ending doesn't happen in the hilarious way that it does in the movie, but I love the way they ended it in the movie. The way they ended it in the movie is so funny. I love that
It's
Lestat
very cunty. Yeah.
comes in the sexy convertible smashing into the Golden Gate Bridge. There's a lot
He's
of
like, I
iconic
assume you know
shit.
who I am.
Right?
Oh my God. Also like famous
Please
last
allow
words.
me to introduce
Oh,
myself. I'm the
yeah, but
music.
even before that, Daniel's like last words are like, I need to change my shorts. God, that was crazy. God, that was crazy. And then he gets his blood sucked. So I was like, that's the last thing that you said. I need to change my shorts. That sucks. But in reality, he goes out to try to find Lestat in the book. And that's so he can change him or something like that. But they don't have that fun little sexy jaunt in San Francisco.
I get that we're just to assume that Lestat, once the first time they kill him and they put him in the swamp, even though we see him being eaten by alligators, he survives off rats. One, how
And
does
the alligator. He
so
eats the alligator.
so is he in the alligator's tummy and then eats him from the inside?
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like we see him go into the water, we see an alligator, it approaches. There's like a flurry under the water that we don't see. It's like not clear
we
through the
just
water, and then like
assume.
blood and bubbles come up. We're
Mm.
assuming it's Lestat's blood as the alligator eats him. And then Swamp Lestat, when he comes back later, says, actually, that was the
That
alligator's
was
blood as I ate the
me.
alligator.
Okay,
Mhm.
And
but
that
then
whole Swamp
They should
Lestat
have
scene is
fucking burned
crazy.
him.
but they did burn him
They
the
did burn
second
him.
time, and he still lived. Like, how did he
But
survive?
he was alive. If he was all
he was,
no
that's
blood
true.
in his body and they burned him, then he would have died, I think. But he had blood in his body and then they burned him,
But
and so
still,
it was fine.
like I was reading, I'm pretty sure like you burn them, and that will kill them. And he was burnt, and yet he's still alive with no burn marks.
It's kind of like Twilight in the
feel.
sense that in Twilight, it's like you have to tear the head off and burn them. Because if you only tear the head off, then the body parts will recombobulate. And if you are burning them, then they have a chance to put the fire out while they're still alive. So I think that's kind of the implication is like you have to kill them and then burn the body. Just killing them isn't enough because they are a vampire. So over time, they will eventually regain their strength, especially if they have access to rats and alligators and other such small creatures that can kind of like come to them to some degree. But yeah, he is the gift that just keeps giving in this movie. You can't keep a bad bitch down. So
Exactly.
Fair.
And thank God, because we needed a little levity after that sadness.
I will say to Sydney's point about the books in the show, it's really interesting. I was processing it as I was watching the movie. In the movie, he is doing the interview with Daniel, and Daniel is Christian Slater, and he's like kind of young. They're in San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. In the show, it's more like they had done an interview, or Louis had done an interview with Daniel in the past in San Francisco when Daniel was young. And then the interview ended disastrously, like we saw in the movie. And so now they're doing like a second interview now that Daniel is like an old man near the end of his career. And he is so bitchy and he is so like clapping back constantly, getting his little digs in, being like serving absolute cunt and like being so mean, and then like getting put down because he's just a mere human and Louis is a vampire. So like it's very interesting to see like the power dynamic and the relationship there and what it is. So I think you'd like
Totally.
that.
I can't wait to watch the show. I need to finish Under the Bridge and then I'm ready for a new show. And I need to finish Baby Reindeer and then I'm ready for a new show.
I've got to finish Dead Boy Detectives.
Oh, is that good? I downloaded it for the plane, but I didn't get to it.
I started watching it on the plane back from LA. Having a good time so far.
It looks
I think
like
I've got
right
like
up our
3
alley.
more episodes left.
Okay. All right. Well, it's going to be a fun summer full of spooky shit. Are we ready for our favorite time?
Our Segamundos?
Let's dig in. How could this movie be gayer? Kiss. They could kiss.
They could kiss. They could fuck raw. They could fuck nasty.
Yeah.
They could fuck raw.
I want to see them fucking covered in blood.
Yeah.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
No, that's what I want to see out of all vampire
too
movies.
much to ask because I think Louis would have a really hard time getting mentally in the place to do that. But if he could just wrap his brain around it and let loose for 1 second, which is really all we're asking for, I think it would have a great place in this movie.
I would love to see the erotic thriller version of this movie.
Yeah.
The big budget porn of this movie.
Well, this movie had like a $60 million budget, so like it was a fairly big budget.
No. I'm saying I want a high budget porn version.
Okay, that
of
was
this
the
movie.
word that didn't register for me as the key word
Porn,
in
porn,
the
porn.
sentence. Yeah,
Porn
porn,
is
porn.
the word porn.
I hear you now. But I will say when Claudia, again, because this hasn't happened in the show yet at the time of our recording. When she brought Madeline home to be her new partner, I thought that was going to be I guess, open-minded adult woman who was willing to work within the restraints of Claudia's existence. I thought they were going to be real romantic partners, not mommy daughter.
I I think that there's a read for a lesbian Claudia, or at least a queer Claudia, because like she literally asks the age-old question, do I want to be her or be with her? Like she literally says that out loud. Which I thought was funny because it's literally exactly the quote. But again, that is a gutting scene. But it must be an interesting thing because she has her fledgling sexuality, but she is stuck in like arrested development for for eternity.
But she is literally coveting a sexy female body. So like obviously again, as we're talking about, a lot of that is what she wants for herself that she won't be able to have. But I'm sure there is also parts of it that maybe she's not parsing as clearly, that is just basic attraction.
Totally, totally. I think there's a lot there to set that up. I wish that she survives and has a beautiful lesbian life and she can just say that she's a tiny person.
Right.
She's got the mind of an adult at that point. If she's like fucking 400 years old and she still looks like a little girl, like let her do what she wants. My God.
Yeah, it is so much more complicated when she's 5 or when she's 11.
Yeah.
It is hard because it's one of those things also where it's like they say that it's wrong to make vampires that young. So presumably she's not going to meet any other vampires who were also turned that young. She would have to make her own, and then she's dealing with someone who is literally 5 or is literally 11, and then she has to wait for them also to be mature
It's an
and hope that they
impossible
don't resent
situation.
her the way that she resents Lestat. Yeah, I mean, like
There's
really
no
is
solution for her.
Exactly. But I don't know. Her taking the woman's body home and leaving it in her bed, and her being like,
That's
"This is my
gay.
new bitch." Yeah, Claudia's gay.
Claudia's for sure gay. She's got gay dads and they adopted a beautiful gay daughter, and that's wonderful. Santiago, what's gayer than a mime?
That is
He
true.
is bisexual for sure. Yeah.
100%. There's nothing gayer than a mime. Or a clown or whatever the fuck he's doing. Great cape work, also, I have to say. That whole character, so
he's got
fucking
stage
funny.
presence. Also
He's
gay.
got
He
great
really
stage presence.
does.
When he's making the mortal woman naked, I know Monica touched on the nudity in this movie a little bit and how effective it is in those moments, but it's so effective here, the way that it's like her vulnerability is especially being like highlighted as she's stripped bare in front of everyone. But he's very commanding of the stage, of the moment. He's, and they're all drinking the little boy and they're drinking this grown woman, and I think just everyone in that theater company is very flexible with their
doing
sexuality.
Sexy vampire orgies.
Yeah,
as they should.
Yeah,
as they should. Also,
as they should. I would like them so much if they hadn't killed Claudia. Sorry, Sydney, continue.
I was gonna say the naked lady in the vampire thing, her breasts were perfect, and I am better. No, I am no better than a man.
That was the perfect woman, yes. And
it
too
was
bad that she was
and
gone
she
too
had a
soon.
beautiful bush.
Yes.
Yeah.
So important.
So important.
Love to see a bush in a major blockbuster film.
I saw a tweet earlier today and it just said every time a woman shaves her bush, an angel loses its wings. And like, yes.
Sad. It's so sad. So sad. You hate to see that. Okay, any more gay thoughts?
So many gay thoughts.
Pride.
Pride. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this was just like a landmark queer movie at the time. And also I'll get into this later when we're on our Knives Out of Fives and I'm setting the scene. But one of the awards that it was nominated for was Best On-Screen Duo Lead Couple, which was Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt at the MTV Movie and TV Awards. So they didn't say couple, but we all know that that's what they meant, and it's clear.
Yep. It's on the page.
There's really no other way to read it. Like, let's be so real.
Let's be honest with ourselves for once.
Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt were a little scared to go there just because they didn't vibe with each other, but it's there.
It's there. Okay, that brings us to Matthew Lillard. Where would we cast him into this fun film?
Okay, I think he would be an incredible Santiago.
Yeah. I was thinking at first Daniel, like he would be a Slay Daniel, especially if Daniel's being so cunty. But then 1 second before you said it, I was also like, you know who he could be? Santiago. Because
like I would just love to see him
rule
mime.
that stage.
That man can mime.
Flipping the cape. Oh my God, he'd kill.
Him growing
you
his
look at
hair
Matthew
out
Lillard,
long.
you're like, that man could mime.
Like, dancing up the ceiling of the tunnel. Come on.
Right? Like, it's the perfect role for him.
Yeah, I know.
No, that's perfect.
Louis or Lestat would not be right for him. That's not where he would shine the brightest.
I could see him as Daniel though, especially like in like a younger Matthew Lillard, all that kind of stuff. Also, I would maybe like to see young Matthew Lillard as Antonio Banderas' little like boy.
The little blood bag.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Sorry, Adam was asking
like
for my car key.
If we're doing like a child time traveling Matthew Lillard, he could save the day. You know what I mean? He could be so integral to the future of the plot.
Exactly. Hero Matthew
So
Lillard.
true.
Or he could just be like a random moviegoer that like walks out of the movie theater behind
They could
Brad
be
Pitt.
showing Scream in the movies. No, I guess this movie only came out in 1994. They could be showing Ghoulies in the movie theater, and he's watching Ghoulies 3 in the movie theater, and he sees Matthew Lillard on screen, or I don't know, any Matthew Lillard movie, really. That could be a fun little cameo.
Okay, is it time for Dumb Bitch?
I think so.
Yee.
I don't know, though, who the dumb bitch is. Lestat, I guess.
It's the whole Paris coven for killing Claudia.
Yeah. Because, like, you guys are being player haters, and, like, we were having a sick, good, fun time all together, and Claudia was vibing with you guys, so I don't know why you couldn't just vibe with Claudia. She already had her troublesome phase, and now she's just chilling, and you guys have to be haters about it. Like,
she just got her cutie dresses. She was just having a nice time.
She just got a mom, like a real mommy, to replace Lestat. Like,
yeah, there's really
let her live.
And if you're killing her for killing a vampire, and now you're killing two vampires, and you're burying a third one alive for eternity, it just feels like a little hypocrisy. So, like, let's get it together.
No, I totally agree. It's got to be the Paris troupe. They're posturing as cool vamps, but they're not.
They're not. Yeah, because also, like, it can't be Lestat. You know what I mean? Like, does he make mistakes? Sure. But ultimately, he's also just someone
But does he serve cunt all day?
Always, fun and companionship and any opportunity to slay and serve cunt.
He just has crazy eyes. It's not his fault.
The thing that's so funny about Anne Rice being like, he can't do this role and you should swap them and Tom Cruise should play Louis and I guess Brad Pitt can play Lestat is like, if she had been able to see into the future and see Tom Cruise jump on the couch on the Oprah interview, she would have known that he has the ability to free himself of inhibition and live within the fullest extent of the depths of his emotions, whatever they may be. So she didn't have the vision yet. But she saw it. She
but
came
now
around.
She gets it.
Totally. Okay, I think that brings us to our knives out of fives. Chelsea, tell us about the critical reception of the film.
So, as I mentioned, it is the first LGBT film to gross more than 100 million at the US box office. And it was the highest money-making R-rated vampire movie, and I guess continues to be. But it also has a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has 63% fresh from critics, which is lower than I expected. But it has 86% fresh from audiences, and it did get some real award season buzz because it was nominated for 2 Oscars for Best Art Direction / Set Direction and Best Original Score. It won an award for Tom Cruise for Favorite Actor in a Mystery / Thriller at the Blockbuster Entertainment Awards. Who said the word blockbuster earlier? Did you
R.I.P.
know?
Blockbuster.
I didn't even know Blockbuster had entertainment awards. But Tom Cruise won one, baby. It also was nominated for 2 Golden Globes, Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role in a Motion Picture for Kirsten Dunst, and again, Best Original Score. And like I mentioned, at the MTV Movie and TV Awards, it got lots of shouts. It was nominated for Best Movie, Best On-Screen Duo for Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, and Best Villain, Tom Cruise. It was also nominated for Most Desirable Male, Tom Cruise, and Most Desirable Male, Christian Slater. And it won for
What
Most
about
Desirable
Armand?
Male, Brad Pitt. No, Armand did not get his flowers, tragically.
Antonio. It'll
Yeah.
come later for you, Antonio. This is
But it
your
got
US debut.
3 Most Desirable Male nominations and took home the win for one of them. And then it also won for Best Male Performance for Brad Pitt and Best Breakthrough Performance for Kirsten Dunst. That said, Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt also won a Razzie for being the worst on-screen couple. So
Their chemistry was bad.
the
Bad
Razzie said they are gay.
chemistry.
They are a couple, but they're not selling it. And honestly,
that's
that's a really valid
representation.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. That's representation. They're like, they're gay and they suck at it. And
They're
sometimes
gay,
that happens.
and like Norm Macdonald said, they're not being gay enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gay enough.
Not gay enough.
Okay, who wants to go first for this one? Because it ain't gonna be me.
I'll go first. Like I said, I am a recent interview with the Vampire Stan. So it was
Big stan
interesting
now, though.
I know, it was really interesting to go to the source material. Tom Cruise was just as good as I had always been led to believe, especially at the end when he comes back and he slays in the convertible and he's like, ugh, I'm so over listening to this. Let's get some tunes on, bitch. And then he hits the radio. I just think he's so fun and he's so perfect, and I would watch 3 more movies with just him as Lestat. Brad Pitt not doing it for me though. Like, not an interesting performance. I've always liked Jacob Anderson even before this. I liked him as Grey Worm in Game of Thrones, and I had seen him in at least 1 or 2 other things too. And I'd heard his music. Yeah, he's Louis, and he does amazing. He's like fantastic. And you're like so in it with him. So like I was not dazzled by this performance. And I don't think that Brad Pitt would tell you this was his most dazzling performance.
Yeah.
So
sexy,
that was kind of a bummer. Yeah, and it kind of like, again, brought down the chemistry of things a lot. And so like the gayness of the movie is more muted because of that. And the sexuality of the movie is more muted because of that. So like there are points where it could have slayed and it didn't, but not because of anything Tom Cruise did. Tom Cruise was absolutely bringing it 100% of the time. Our friend Christine that we had before on here for the Mother episode, she's like the biggest Tom Cruise fan for reasons I don't understand. And
Adam
she made me watch all
loves
these.
him.
Yeah. Made me watch all these Tom Cruise movies to be like, see, he's amazing. I don't know why she didn't just pick this one, because like this is This is the Tom Cruise movie to me now.
She has to speak to you in words that you would understand, and half
She
of
said,
his
"Let's
movies
watch
are
Risky
not.
Business," and I said, "What the fuck is this?" Yeah.
Yeah, no. Come to you where you live, and that you live in Interview with a Vampire.
Well, but I didn't know that before a few weeks ago. You know what I mean? So maybe I would have been resistant to that too. Now that I'm fucking in, baby. Kirsten Dunst also slated as Claudia. She deserved all of the nominations and wins that she got. She was wonderful. Um, was shocked by how much ground they covered in this movie. It is long. It's like 2 hours and 2 minutes or something like that. So like they've got time. But again, compared to how in depth they go on the show, I was surprised to see it. So I
And it's a long ass
understand.
book.
Yeah, I understand how much of it is getting glossed over. But I had fun. I was interested. I was fascinated. I did want more from it. And so like I'm glad that the TV show is able to build on the legacy and really flesh some things out. But I had fun and I was interested and I thought most people did a great job. So I'm gonna give it like 4 knives out of 5s.
I'm also gonna give this 4 knives out of 5s. It needs to be gayer.
It needs to be gayer.
It needs to be gayer. It's not gay enough. I do want to watch the show now after like watching it. I was like
Yay!
hesitant, but then I was like, okay, I am having a good time. I actually did have a way better time watching it the second time. Then like the
Same,
first
it's
time
so
I was like,
weird.
not gay.
Not gay enough.
And then I was like, a little gay, like 1994 gay. Like we are
1994.
just leaving the AIDS and like endemic gay.
We
And
could have gotten them in the coffins together. It feels like that's something we could have had in this movie, but
That would have been a lot for 94.
I guess, but it's still not kissing on the mouth.
Sleeping in the same bed where the bed's a coffin.
But if
So
you're
it's
like,
for
oh, we
one
only have
person.
one coffin, and we got to
yeah,
the
everybody
motel,
loves
the
the
vampire
only the
motel,
one
and
coffin
we
trope.
only have this one room left. It only has one
What are we
One
gonna
queen-size
coffin.
do?
coffin. Yeah.
I guess we gotta go in here together.
Everybody loves the one coffin trope. But yeah, 4 knives out of 5s. This movie is so good.
Awesome. I think I'm right there with you guys because, like Sydney just said, I also had not so good experience watching it last night, and then a way better experience watching it today. I hadn't seen this since like I don't know, like over a decade ago, like such a long time ago. So it was really interesting. I mean, I'll be so honest. When I read the book, I also didn't like fucking go crazy for the book either, just because like it's hard having a vampire book from fucking magical clinical depression man here from Louis's perspective. Like you lose like a lot of the like sexiness of being a vampire because like he hates it so much. I mean that's why fucking reading Midnight Sun was terrible and it sucked so bad.
Why I never finished
Because
it.
like
Yeah.
it's like 600 pages of Edward hating himself. You know what I mean? That's the same thing as Interview with the Vampire. It's 600 pages of Louis hating himself. And the story itself is great. And I love Anne Rice. And she has a great breadth and depth of different genres that
She
she
has such a
works with.
personality.
She has such a personality. I was telling the girls, one of her big famous books is basically like slave porn for Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty is awoken by a prince, and the prince is like, I own you now, bitch. And it's just like uses her as a sex slave for the rest of the book. So Anne Rice does a lot of different things. She goes all over the town, and I won't be commenting on the rest of it. But I was shocked to hear that that's where things go after a rather chaste experience in Interview with a Vampire. But what can I expect if the vampire Lestat? She literally makes Lestat into a rock star, so anything can happen. And that's what I love about that bitch. And was a burgeoning genderqueer person. She was almost had the words for it. And I love that for her. But yeah, it was a little bit disappointing just because I remembered it being more gay. And you know what? We'll take our scraps that we can get. It's still a part of gay history. And that's why we're kicking off Pride with it. Wait. Hold on. Oh, hold on.
Yay!
Yay!
Do we sing pada pada
Ba-dum, I feel
Take me
pada.
and take off all my
See,
clothes.
we made it extra gay because the movie wasn't.
Sprinkled in.
R.I.P. Lestat.
Sprinkled
You
it
would have
in at
loved
the
Padam.
end. Oh my
And
God.
somewhere out there, he still does.
Okay, well, I'm swooping in to announce our second movie for Pride Month. This is a movie that came out this year. It's fresh. It's so new. We got our fingers on the pulse of gay shit. But we've given you a few months to have seen it, so hopefully you already have. Because everyone, I think, should see Love Lies Bleeding. Some will say it's not a horror movie. And to those people, I say, did you watch it? Because there are some tropes there. Chelsea and I saw this together, and we had an exciting, intense experience that I'm looking forward to recreating, watching this again. And all I can say is Kristen Stewart. Need I say more? Come on.
Also, Google has this listed as a thriller, and we clearly say in our intro, we don't put ourselves in a box, and I will mold anything to see muscle mommy Kristen Stewart.
She's not even the muscle mommy, baby. That's Katie O'Brien, and you're going to love
Katie O'Brien. You're going to fall in love with Katie O'Brien.
Yeah. I mean, Monica and I talked about that when we saw it too. We were like, it is a thriller. How come we literally never do thrillers and yet we shout them every single week? We need to be working more thrillers onto our schedule. And then we saw the movie and we were like, and there is horror shit in here for sure. Like this would qualify even if we didn't say thrillers.
100%. 100%. So it's going to be really fun looking at it from even more of a horror perspective, but it was a really fun movie. And I'm really excited to les it up with you guys next week.
I've got a big fat lesbian crush on y'all.
Oh my God. I feel that every week, but I feel it even more because it's Pride. I wish if we had a producer that like added songs, and a budget, we would have Kylie Minogue on the track right now. It'd be so good. But before we go on to next week, we must decide what is our poll question for this fabulous film interview with the vampire. I've said vampire every time.
That was also an IMDb trivia. Apparently, a lot of people make that mistake. And in some of the foreign language versions of this movie, the title does translate directly to Interview with a Vampire. But Louis is the vampire of this story, I suppose.
What if the multiple choice question is, what would your vampire superpower be? And one of them is super depression, and one of them is reading people's souls, and
reading people's souls,
reading people's thoughts, and
being able to be a great mime.
Yep,
mime.
He got both. Oh my God,
what a lucky guy!
Read thoughts, and he's a super mime. It's not fair. That's why he gets cut in half. Are y'all cool with that for poll question?
Yes. Sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's Pride. And won't you take pride in the fact that you love Spooky Tuesday by writing us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts?
Aren't you proud to be a Spooky Tuesday listener?
Yeah.
A
don't
proud
you
stand
love
of Spooky Tuesday? Also, this blood has gone down so far on my face that I keep looking like I have a marionette mouth, and it's really freaking me out, and I can't wait to take it off.
I was wondering how far on your under chin it is now.
Not
just there. It's
Thank
hesitating.
God. If it was getting close to the white shirt, we'd have a problem.
Be in danger.
But anyway, why not follow us on social media as well? We're at Spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we are at Spooky Tuesday Pod. And we also are on YouTube doing YouTube episodes. And boy, do we look hot today. We're all in character. We got the big three here. I'm Louie, a woman with a man with clinical depression. We've got a sexy Lestat here, crazy eyes and all. Just kidding. You don't have crazy eyes. Love you.
They could be crazy.
Oh, now they're crazy. And Sydney is either a sexy vampire Lestat as well, or Claudia, just because she's blonde.
She's blonde. She sluts right in.
I am if Claudia grew up.
The
So,
woman that Claudia
exactly.
wishes she could be.
Exactly. The woman that Claudia covets. That's Sydney. And you can only see all that beautifulness on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. And so at the end of the day, I have to say, thank you for listening. Happy Pride. And see you next Tuesday.
Bye, Spookies.
Most of all, I longed for death. I invited it. A release from the pain of living.
Oh, Louis.
Is open to anyone.
Still whining, Louis.
To the pimp that followed.
Have you heard enough?
But it was a
I've had to listen to that for centuries. Don't be afraid. I'm going to give you the choice I never had.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamra Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at great18_. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can find on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's Ryan, RYAN, Brom, BROMM, Art, ART. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.tumblr.com.